pop out your stream dashboard. अपना बड़ी பண்ணிக்கலாம். This is going to be critical.
Is it recorded, Ramesh?
No, it's not recording.
It's not recording. Okay, then it's fine.
Check. Okay.
Can you send the link to one of these guys so that we can just check if it's working?
Yeah.
Should we just start or should we just wait for a few?
I think we should just wait for a few.
Okay. As we just wait, we'll just get started in a couple of minutes just to see a couple more just dialing in. Okay, the people joining in, let's just give it a couple of more minutes. Ramesh, let's just get started, Ramesh. Or should we just give it?
We'll just give it about 2 to 3 minutes
2
more.
to 3 minutes, okay.
As we start seeing this room getting a little more crowded.
Quite a few known faces, Ramesh.
Yeah,
Yes.
always good to have known faces in
Yeah.
the podcast.
Hello, everybody. I think, as we see people coming in, I think welcome to our webinar for the Growth Store community, right, insider community. I think before we dive into the topic for the day, right, let's just share a little bit of background or a backstory about why we built the Growth Store community, Ramesh. Why don't we start about? I know it started as a very simple idea,
Correct.
right, to create a space where we talk about growth and not just metrics. And that's a very simple way to put it. But I think I would like to know, a story. I want to hear from you, Ramesh, on what's the backstory for starting Growth Store.
I think the whole idea of creating a community itself, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
But the moment you start giving, the moment you're sharing experiences and getting the similar tribe come together, a community starts forming, right? And then it's forming, and then norming, and then finally it leads to performing. But it's not easy to to get like-minded people. When we started Growth Store, we will, before we get to the introduction, I just want to tell that when we started Growth Store, it was all about trying to give out all our experience that we have. So with the combined experiences of being in a company, having built CRM software for the past and for a huge number, and then having been in the business of generating leads, when you have to do that again, it's nothing like having a community behind. And this is by sharing all our knowledge and coming together more as people in a room. So that was the whole idea of, it's not about numbers. It's not to say that, hey, we'll get to 500 or 1,000. It was just trying to get like-minded people together and talk more about it.
So, I mean, I think just to summarize, Ramesh, what you're saying is it's more than numbers. Bring a community together.
Yep.
Share the learnings, share the experiences and ability to grow together, as we learn and truly grow. That's the whole intent.
Absolutely, right?
And it's more about sharing those small wins, sharing those breakthroughs, and hoping that each other could win because of the learning. So that's a whole thought process, right?
But I think we should kind of give it. There are folks who are joining in, eager also to kind of know who we are. Like, this is the first time we are coming on board in this community.
Correct.
I think it just makes. Sri, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. I think let me just welcome everybody who just dialing in. Hey, this is Sri here. I also have Ramesh. I'm going to let Ramesh do a brief introduction about himself. But I'll just go with a quick introduction. I'm an engineer turned product manager who's passionate about building products. Spent the last 10 years building CRM products. And now between me and Ramesh, we came together to co-found High Performer. And we're building the Growth Store, the community, for the last, I would say, 1.5 years, pretty close to 2 years now.
Yeah.
Ramesh, over to you.
So that's while Sri was busy building products in his previous avatar at Freshworks, he built the entire CRM business unit ground up. I was busy trying to distribute it and see how many leads we can get more. So I'm from Freshworks as well in my past life, before joining High Performer and before co-founding High Performer and starting Growth Store. I have seen the growth of a company from almost like $15 million to now wherever it is, and it's all coming together, the whole inbound marketing and all of that. But if you ask me, it's not going to be easy to replicate success. Right? You may have a playbook, you may have seen what's been the journey, but it is extremely difficult to build a playbook. And here is where Growth Store comes into picture, where we want to kind of course, build in public, but more so ever kind of try to understand who people are around, what are they building, and how can we help them come together. So that's our introduction, and Sri and myself over here.
And let me add one more thing in, very, very interesting part. Right? One of the reasons why we ended up co-founding the High Performer was the Growth Store community, right? Right, Ramesh?
Yeah.
And why don't you talk about that a little bit before we, of course, there's an interesting topic for the day today, but they're all connected together because there is a reason why you should build a community, and the impact of that is multifolded. I think one impact which we had already is that we ended up being able to co-found our own startup, High Performer, right? Ramesh, let's just delve into that for a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? What is the reasoning, and how did we ended up doing High Performer, and like, what is the connect with the Growth Store community?
Happy to. Right. So for those of you, we started. So before we left Freshworks, right, the whole idea was, hey, Sri and I were colleagues at Freshworks, and we always wanted to do something together, but we couldn't nail down what that was going to be. So colleagues are different, but we have to, when you have to start a company and you have to get onto an idea where both of us get equally excited. I thought the only thing that would get us excited is let's write something, right? Let's write together because you have so much of years of experience building products. I have some. So we started writing, and because we thought that writing is going to take, and this was probably in 2022, end of 2022.
That's right.
And we said, let's start writing, let's start putting together all our thoughts, and for the world to also know who we are and what we do and how is it difficult or what's our experience. Guys, you won't believe it that with writing, what we thought was difficult became easier, because we had, there are of course tools, but when you literally have a story to say, the narration becomes easier. But what was really difficult is getting subscribers. So we started a community, a Substack a newsletter. It was called growthstore.xyz.
Yeah.
And it was only two subscribers in the beginning, right? We just had the two of us, and then we realized, hey, building a product or writing something is not that hard. What is hard is the distribution of things. And then we started realizing, we sent it to a few of our folks over WhatsApp to start with. It took time, it took traction, but we realized that there are multiple tools that are in between. Right? How do we started leveraging social media, we started leveraging Twitter, we started leveraging Instagram, LinkedIn. And once we started doing that, you suddenly could see. And then we realized that, hey, if we have to be on social media all the time promoting this, it's not going to be easy, because we also have a day job and we're going to build a product. And then we got to analytics of it, and then we realized from which country what. So it was essentially a tool that we needed to manage to get more subscribers. And on the way, like along the journey, today we have about 25,000 subscribers just for Growth Store in the last 1.5 years. And it was all about consistent writing, and more importantly, consistently distributing.
Correct. And the problem statement we ended up choosing to solve for was that, hey, if it was difficult for somebody who's been seasoned in the market, be able to write content, what we thought was much harder problem, it actually turned out to be a problem which we could solve. And then like Ramesh explained, distribution, being able to be consistent became a bigger problem. Right? That's when we started building High Performer. Right. So now I think Ramesh, if you just have to come back to the topic, right. So today I think we're talking about, hey, how do you build a thriving, the social media community? How you basically translate the community into your fans and the fans into your customers. Right?
Yep.
Now that's the topic we want to talk about, and we're going to share some of our learnings we've been going through. Right. Now, Ramesh, is it kind of beyond numbers? Building a community, like how do you see it? How do you see a community? How do you basically create a thriving community? Right? I think let's start with that.
I'll give you an analogy, Sri. When I was at Freshworks, and and my core job and my team's job was, can we generate leads? These leads, think of it as a hungry lion sitting inside a cage, which was the sales team. And the moment you took leads to them, it's just going to grab it all. But the moment you go to, and then when you start going there, the first response, you would think that, hey, I'm giving you so many leads, and they're going to lap it up, but they come back and saying leads are of poor quality. Right? Okay, I've given you 100 leads, 40 of them poor quality. So that's to your point, numbers aren't as important always. It is about engagement, because the sales team translated that into saying, I don't want numbers, give me quality conversations. They always wanted to engage in a conversation. And that was the most important metric. It's not about numbers, it's about quality engagement, and engagement is the one that always matters.
Yeah. Let's take a step back, Ramesh, right? Let's also establish the connect between a community and your social, the followers, right? So can we also kind of build that, the connect between these two things, right? I think I can just give it a shot, and then Apurva would like to know what you think as well, right? So if you should look at building the social presence like building a community. which means, for example, I kind of recently came to see one of the news where at least 2 out of 3 of the followers in Instagram for most of the influencers, specifically in India, are fake.
That's
right?
very true.
That's happening because you're not trying to build a community. I think when you're trying to build, or when you're trying to grow your presence in all the social platforms,
Right.
what we end up is that we end up looking at numbers. As a result, you end up seeing people who are fake or who are very transient in nature.
Correct.
Now, when you look at building your social presence, like building a community, so what happens, Ramesh? I think I kind of heard you say this like multiple times to me, where at any given time, the 5% of people are looking to buy something online.
Correct.
So now you have a very strong weapon with you, right? Which is basically a strategy where you try to engage with the remaining 95%.
Correct.
And try to build a community
Yeah.
of your target
Very,
audience.
very
right?
true.
So let me pause here. Right?
Yeah.
I want to see like how you establish the connect between a social presence and building a community, right? Now, what do you think, and how do you think we should look at that? And also you should dwell into the aspect of the 95% and the 5%.
Yeah,
the
I
paradigm.
think it's a given, it's a well-established fact, and there are multiple reports to say the bottom. Like, I'm going to talk about the bruised and beaten up funnel, the marketing funnel, right? You talk about it in terms of AIDA, attention, interest, desire, and action, or whatever it could be. It's always the bottom of the funnel that every marketer is going behind.
Mhm.
Because they have a commercial intent to buy something. You know that there's a commercial intent to buy, so put all your efforts just in that 5%. And think of it, right? Nowadays things are changing because as a SaaS vendor, the choice for the buyer is plenty.
Okay.
Right, and they are going to look at niches of which product is possibly going to work for them, and then you have the power of probably not doing a great job in saying for someone the price could be too high, for some of them the user experience could be bad, for some of them it's not featured as compared to others, and there is no unique SaaS product available anymore, right? There are everything that always. So it's the 5% that marketers always go behind.
Which means that everybody is competing for the 5%.
Everyone is competing for the 5%.
Okay.
People who want to buy will go ahead and buy, right? It doesn't mean you should get disappointed when you're not part of the buying community. But however, your 95% on top of the funnel is where your niche lies.
Okay.
When your opportunity lies. Here is where it's not about commercial intent. It's not about a buyer ready to buy right now. It's about how do you engage with your prospective buyers.
So your target audience. So what you're saying, Ramesh, is that if I have to try to paraphrase that, right? What you're saying is that 99% of all the SaaS companies or probably businesses are going after the 5%.
Correct.
Now we are talking about an alternate here where you could go after the 95% of the people of your audience, identify target audience, and build a community.
Yep.
Let's talk about a few examples of company who done it well. Right? Who do you, if I say, hey, somebody who's used community or somebody who used social to build a community, right? Give me a name which comes.
I mean, I think the well-known story is Figma in itself.
Okay.
A lot of they have a community of designers on social.
Excellent.
Take Canva, they have this whole community on. Take HubSpot, right? HubSpot has a thriving Instagram network, right? They are constantly looking all their releases. Everything happens on social, parallel to whatever they're doing. Look at yesterday, or was it day before, when Dharmesh himself came up on social media on LinkedIn, and he said, "Hey guys, on 24th April, we're going to have something big launched." And look at the noise that happens.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean everyone following Dharmesh is going to buy the product, but it's the engagement where the company is able to talk about a new release. And that you don't have that opportunity to do that on email or a phone call.
In fact, for a minute, everybody thought HubSpot launched a new product.
Exactly.
That's, by the way, it's an existing product. They just did a new update. But coming to the point, Ramesh, what you're saying is that, hey, here is an opportunity, right, for you to take the social presence seriously.
Yeah.
And build your followers, like build the community.
Exactly. I think the point that I'm trying to say is when Dharmesh came up and spoke about it, literally that engagement has turned them into fans of HubSpot, fans of Dharmesh. And there is so much of engagement going in these discussions that at some point in time, when you want to buy a sales CRM, you probably are thinking only about HubSpot. That is where the sale has happened. It's not that with the sales guy reaching out to you.
Okay. So what it means in essence is that, hey, engaging with your community, right, or creating a social presence which is engaging is what really matters.
Absolutely. I have a very interesting question from Ash over here, and they ask, how do you engage sales teams, or do they have the leads? What do they do with it? How do you? I mean, that's a important question, right? Do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. I think how do you engage sales teams, right? I think if you need to engage sales team, I think one definite suggestion we made, I think one thing which we have seen working is that you should make them part of your advocacy team, right? If I were you, this is what I would do. I will go talk to my sales team, right? Understand what's their preferred choice of, the platform, the social platform they want to engage, and then have them be able to volunteer to be part of your advocate program, right? I think get them on, use a product like the High Performer, try to help them create content and try to distribute, right?
Yeah.
I think one place where you have to help every, the sales rep or the sales team or leadership is that help them be more consistent, right? Try to give them the content which is relevant for the business. Like for example, let's say if they close a new customer and you have successfully onboarded them as your customer, now create a success story out of that and help them be able to share it in social, right? Like another example is that if they're going for an event, kind of be able to connect with their prospects on the event, try to do a plan for, let's say, 20 days or 15 days before the event and help them be online.
Yeah.
Like these are the few ways you can help them participate sales rep, because the sales rep would put their time if they think it's going to help them build their pipeline, right? Or it will help them build a relationship with their customer. So you need to kind of give them that aspect of being able to elevate the presence.
Absolutely.
That's what I would say.
And
what do you think?
I mean, we are a new startup, and if you see the growth of the growth store in itself, predominantly everything has come from social, right? The
Okay.
more we kind of put it out on LinkedIn, we've seen people coming up and liking. I think it's a number of people who have come and followed High Performer in the last 15 days is close to 1,000 people, right? So
let me ask you this question, right? Can you share one strategy, with respect to enhancing an authentic engagement with your followers? Ramesh, what has worked for you? Can you just, give one strategy?
So, there is no one strategy per se, but I think what is really worked for me is treating them exclusive, right?
Okay.
Treating them to be my exclusive person whom I have a direct connect with. More often than not, it's always about giving, and we've spoken about it, right? When we launched Growth Store, the way we got subscribers to subscribe for our blog was to give them a product launch checklist, because that's what Sri and I have been doing always. So what we did is we launched it. We had about 3 checklists.
Yeah.
And it was so detailed to the effect that, hey, 10 days before the launch, what are you supposed to do? 1 week before the launch, what are we doing? And it comes down to the day of the launch and then post launch, right? It was done for marketing. The same checklist was done for product.
Okay.
And then we put it all out.
Okay.
And it was giveaway, right? If that is the exclusive offer that I have, I mean, there is no point saying, hey, if you buy this and we'll give you 30% off. I think discounts are not what people want. They want value.
Okay.
And that exclusivity is important when you give them value. They know that you are a company of substance. They know that you probably provide them value, and that's what they come for. And that's what we've been doing always.
Okay. I think Ramesh, just to kind of paraphrase what you said, I think one is getting them all together for a reason. I think there's also a question about, hey, what is the difference between audience and community? You're going to answer that in a bit. But what you're saying is that one of the most effective way of engaging in your community is to give to the community.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
I mean, it stays true to the essence of the name community. I think you just have to give without expecting them to buy anything or even asking them anything. I think that's the mind shift we should have. I think we all go, don't create a community or don't create your social presence with the intent for asking people. Instead, create or try to elevate your social presence with the intent to give. And you can give anything and everything you know, right? Which means you can share insights, you can share your success stories, you can share the lessons you've learned,
Yeah.
right? And I think one aspect which worked well for Ramesh and I is this: when we started sharing how we could build products and launch products, we can see that people come and they basically wants to learn that, and then they engage. And the most important aspect, Ramesh, which you're also touching, is that also help each other be able to connect with each other, because which is more important. Having an audience where it can't be one-sided, give avenues, opportunities, create a Discord or Beam Social where you engage with them, right? And also have an avenue where each other can connect. That is another aspect of building a community.
I think that's the best part about it. You call it a digital community or an in-person community. The whole why does everyone want to get everyone inside a room? The whole idea is that you are able to introduce one to the other, and obviously create an environment of selling, right? At least talk about your product. At least you know about the value that you do. And that always helps in a community.
So now, I think, Ramesh, now you said, hey, you look at your social presence as building a community, which is great. Now that we have started building community, let's say there are folks coming in, participating, engaging, right? Now, in a social aspect, now you translated that the followers into fans. Now, how do you basically translate the fans into customers?
Right.
What do you do?
You got to go along with these fans' journey, right? It's not when the fan is ready. Like I may be a fan of HubSpot or I may be a fan of Salesforce. That doesn't mean I'm going to buy them right now.
Okay.
But if if HubSpot or a Salesforce out there keeps feeding me with important information on what's happening, from the if they're able to entertain me, if they're able to educate me, and if they're able to provide any kind of information that is useful to my business, I am taking baby steps in closer to becoming a customer.
Okay.
So it is a longer wait. It's not that when a sales guy from HubSpot calls and I say I'm getting the deal, that will not happen until I am fully engaged with them from a community standpoint, from a social standpoint. Right? There are smaller metrics. Engagement is a key metric. You start following the HubSpot page. I will do that. I will start connecting with some of the key important leaders or people there.
Yeah, also start following what they do.
You start following what they do.
I kind of learn the best practices.
Yeah.
I learn the playbook. Now I have a connect with the brand or the community, right? But Ramesh, I also add one more thing, right? For you to convert a fan into your customer, you should make them feel special, right? They should get things which they don't get elsewhere. Your community should become exclusive and special, where it also includes even giving them an offer, right? They should probably kind of look for an offer here which they would never get anywhere else, right? It could be as simple as that, right? But like you said, the flow would be that you make them, you first give, then you make them feel exclusive, and then you make them feel special, and there's a chances that they would basically be happy to make business out of that. But the most important thing here is that by looking at social and looking at it like a community, building a community, you also give yourself an opportunity to be able to tap into the 95% of the passive buyers, who probably can become your customers.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
core of it. That's the crux of it.
Right? Now, let's pick one question. There are a few questions here, but let's pick one question that's come in here. How do you differentiate between an audience and a community?
Great question. It's from Meenakshi. So, audience is always whom you're going after, right? In a world of business, you're always going behind who writes the check. And in that case, your audience is probably, in our case, let's say we are building high performer, we want to go behind the decision maker. And that's the target audience, right?
Okay.
You go behind the social media managers who are probably influencing your brand. You probably want to go behind the marketing head in certain, because you probably want to go, and if you're a social CRM, you're going to go behind the CMO.
Okay.
Right? It's very targeted, and an audience is always targeted. All right? A community is not targeted. A community is like-minded people coming under the roof, wanting to share a lot more best practices. You want to build in public. That's a great way to build a community. You want to share your stuff. You want to also share what you're building, right? You want to get likes. So the community comes for help, right? So when you're launching a product hunt is all about bringing together a community.
Okay.
Product hunt is all about when you're launching, you say, hey, can you go and upvote, right? Or your audience won't do that. It's a community that comes to help you first, and that's the difference. You want to add anything there?
No, I think that's very clear, Ramesh, from what you said, right? There is a very clear differentiation, right? Audience or somebody, who could be your customers, pretty much like a target audience. Community is much more broader.
Yeah.
And community is forgiving, right?
Correct.
It could be a broader audience. Subset of them could become your, audience, and then they could become your customers, right? And always look to build a larger community, and you will have your audience and you will have your customers subsequently.
Absolutely.
Right? And let's also pick another question, Ramesh. What do you recommend? Which social channels would be recommending for SaaS?
I wish it was a one-trick pony.
But let's say you want to give two, right? How do you look at it?
Okay, I think every social channel is important and serves its purpose.
Okay.
Right. If you look at LinkedIn, it's about talking about your experiences. It could be personal, it could be professional, it could be talking about the company updates, and that's what LinkedIn it's there, right?
Okay.
LinkedIn today also helps us answer questions if you're a subject matter expert. If you look at Twitter, it's just one-liners. Twitter is just for kind of saying, hey, I built this today and it's fun, and then you get the entire people come to you. In Twitter, if you're going to put up a long form post, chances are it's not going to work. Instagram is a great way for visual. So you have a video, a launch video, you have a feature, you have a meme that people like. Instagram really appreciates that. Because the form factor is also important over there. It's transient. Instagram helps you, digitally look at what's your story for the day and whatever that you're doing, right? It's a reel. If you want to have fun inside the company, you want to show off how fun as a company you are, Instagram probably welcomes that more than LinkedIn. Not to say LinkedIn doesn't. TikTok just works wonders in the US, right? It's also geographically, and it depends on if you're looking at a creator. If you're a creator, then you've got to be on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and all of those places. Whereas if you're trying Mastodon, let's look at in the US, people are moving away from Twitter into Mastodon. Very, very technical, tech focused. Reddit is another channel. So I guess to answer that question, every social media serves a unique purpose, and that's it's for you to figure out what's working in it for each other.
And also one more slightly another way of looking at it is that, hey, if you also look at whom you're selling into, right? If you're building something for a B2B business, if you're looking at generic ICP is a target, right? If you're looking for a CIO, you're looking for a CRO or a salesperson, marketing people, right? LinkedIn is a better place.
Correct.
Right? But the same thing if you're looking for a tech person, right? Your product is very technical. You're going after developers, right? I think you should be in Reddit or X or Twitter, right? But if you're building it for B2C, if you're looking to basically target B2C customers, end users, right? I think like Ramesh mentioned, you should be there in Instagram and TikTok and elsewhere. But over a period of time, if you see successful brands, I would give a good example is HubSpot. They pretty much are present everywhere, right? It's like how Slack. Everybody knows Slack, whether it's basically an engineer or a designer, or a product manager or a sales rep or anybody, everybody does it. But doesn't mean the engineer, who knows about Slack is the one who's going to make the decision to buy.
Correct.
But he or she can make an influence, towards buying. Let's say there's a team meeting and there's a conversation about, hey, let's use a tool for collaboration and chatting. The developer and the designer will say, let's start using Slack. And that's the influence you're going to make because of community. So the beauty of a community is that build it without the expectation that the people, everybody you're going to bring in there, are going to buy your product. But sooner than later, they will going to influence a buying decision somewhere else. That's a way you should look at it. And I think, Ramesh, you want to pick up any other question before we continue with the topic?
I guess that's it for now. But would you do you want to kind of summarize?
Yeah, let's just do a recap, right? Ramesh, this is the way I look. Building a genuine community, right? I would say that when I say community, I mean your social presence, right? That's the most important aspect, right? Start looking at your social presence and your followers as a community, right? So give them more than like what you want to ask them, right? That's a, I would say that's a
Yeah.
the first rule of thumb, or whatever you want to call it. That's the first rule, where look at your social presence to build a community and look to give more than you want to ask. I would say, as a rule of thumb, give 9 times and ask only once, right?
Yep.
Now, the second thing is that how do you translate that, the community into somebody who might become your, customers, right? For that, like Ramesh mentioned, look opportunity to give some exclusive content, right? Something like a webinar, something like a playbook, whatever you think they will find value in their specific discipline of interest or whatever they're trying to function. How can you help them do their job better? I think you should think for them and you should give them exclusive content which they think they will only get from being part of the community, right?
Yep.
And what else, Ramesh? I'm missing anything?
I think what to mention is do not undermine the value of a like or an engagement or a share. First you got to appreciate that someone is reading that content and really appreciates it, right? And that's a form. But what we're also building at High Performer, which is imagine that you have a screen to kind of figure out who is liking your comment or what's their ICP. I think it just makes better to take you one level closer, a step forward towards your sales. So don't undermine the value of a like or a share or even a comment. I think that's very important.
Yeah, I think just one interesting question popped up. I think Ramesh, we should answer that.
Sure.
How do you convert followers to customers, right? I think you should not try doing that. Instead, you should basically give more to your followers, right? That is one. And as a result of that, when you give more to them and you give high quality content exclusive for for your followers, right? They will basically automatically lead to see like what you offer. Right? They will be having the curiosity saying that, hey, this particular person is giving me, playbook and looks like, let me go check out what they do, right? Then
Yeah.
they will basically be happy to try your product, and that's how they become your customers. Like one more point, Ramesh, before you chime in. Also, use tools, to understand who
Yeah.
to basically kind of, to filter your audience. Because in
That's
social,
the
the
most
one big
important.
problem is that how do you differentiate between the signal and the noise, right? Everybody is trying to build a follower base. Everybody wants to have, I would say, if not thousands, at least few hundred likes for every post they're doing. Now, of that 100 posts you get, or maybe the 100 likes you got from the post yesterday, or let's say you should be able to identify that 2-3% of the people who are relevant to you. So use tools. I think you should kind of see what tools can help you to really understand your audience and engagement.
Yeah, I think that you cannot sell to your followers. There are technically reasons because the followers like you for something, and they could come from a community, from a student community.
Could be
They
anybody,
could
yeah.
just come in because of any kind of interest. They could come in for job opportunities. So not all followers are your prospects.
Yes.
And that's why it's important to kind of look using tools to figure out who is your ideal customer profile on what we call ICP, and then filter them separately. Now you can't sell to them directly as well, but I think we've spoken about it again and again, is try and engage with them over a period of time and make that, instead of reaching out to them, let them reach out to you when the time is right, and you will find the sale.
Yeah, and one more aspect which we have learned over a period of time is that we end up spending a lot of time just to be consistent on social.
Yeah.
Right? Use some tools to be more consistent on social. Right. Try to plan your the social publishing for weeks, at least for a couple of weeks, at least for a 1 week at a time. Try to save the time to engage with audience on social, which means that every like, every comment, right, every share should be treated like a customer and engage with them. The more the time you do, I think you can see more success. That is another aspect of how you
Absolutely.
can translate them into current thing. So now let's just summarize. I think do you want to add anything to the summary?
I think that's pretty much about it. So keep engaging, build your community, engage with them, try and give, and before you ask, and then you shall find your success. And that's how we've been doing to find our first 100 customers through social media.
Yeah, and always focus on a genuine engagement on social, and you will see, your social presence pay off over time.
Great. With that, thank you for being a patient audience. And we love doing this webinar with you, and hopefully many, many more to do. Please let us know what you would like us to talk about, and we will do that.
Thank you.
See you, folks. Bye.
She wants me to come and give her a high five.